From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Rodeo is a popular sport all summer long across Colorado and the West. Huge events like the Greeley Stampede, which is happening now, or Cheyenne Frontier Days going on later this month. And many other towns have their own rodeos, from Estes Park to Steamboat Springs to Brush. Now, anyone can buy a ticket and head to the rodeo. But what else should you know if you're new to this world? Well, to answer that question, we reached out to Abe Morris. Abe is a former professional bull rider and a former TV commentator for Cheyenne Frontier Days. He's author of the book, My Cowboy Hat Still Fits, My Life as a Rodeo Star. So if this is your first rodeo, Abe is here now to help you take your first steps into rodeo culture. Abe Morris, welcome to In The NoCo.
Thank you.
Now, you grew up not here in the Wild West, but in New Jersey. You got your start in rodeo at a very young age. I was reading, though, Abe, that you didn't even like horses. You thought they were stinky animals. What got you onto the back of an animal back then?
My cousins, I had 3 older cousins. They were my heroes. I looked up to them and I just wanted to do and be like they were. So my dad sent me to live with them for the summer before I ever went to kindergarten. They would put me on ponies, but they wouldn't give me any instructions. And then they would just hit the pony on the rear end and watch it take off. And they laughed. They thought it was funny until I finally figured out how to make the pony stop and go left and right and all that. But my cousins were the ones who got me started in the sport of rodeo.
Okay, so you owe it all to them just throwing you into the ring, basically. What do you say to people who have always wanted to check out a rodeo, but feel like they may not fit in?
I would say go for it. It's an exciting event. It's a thrill seeker event. It's amazing. And one thing I've always learned about bull riding too, is like you can go to a good bull riding event and see 3 or 4 90-point bull rides. But the people, when they leave, if one guy gets hurt or he gets mucked out or, he gets, as the layman call it, stomped on, and he gets carried out or, there's blood or something and the crowd can see that, they're not going to talk about the 90-point bull rides. They're going to talk about the one guy that got hung up and got stepped on, that they had to carry out, because it's just like going to a NASCAR race. People go to a race, they love seeing cars go round and round and round that track. But I can tell you one thing, they also want to see a little extracurricular activity. So if there's a wreck, that's what they're going to pay attention to. Now, nobody wants to see anybody ever get hurt or killed in these events, but they like to see a little extracurricular activity, and that's just human nature.
Now, Abe, there are a lot of events in rodeo. So you've got things like barrel racing, calf roping. What is your favorite must-watch event?
Bull riding, always will be. That was the card that drew me in, was to ride bulls. And they always have the bull riding last because the crowd is going to stay to watch the bull riding. And even now, they're standalone bull riding events. I watch bull riding as much as I can on a regular basis.
Do you think it's so fascinating to people because it is extremely dangerous?
Without a doubt. And I go to rodeos on a regular basis, and I had an entirely different mindset back then. Back then, I craved getting on those animals, and now I go to events and I stand on the back of the buck and shoots and I look down at these bulls with these muscles and these great big horns, and they're banging around in the chute, and I just go, what in the world was I thinking to get on these animals back then? But I did it, and I did it on a regular basis.
You proudly point out in your bio, not only were you a bull rider, you were one of the few competitive Black rodeo cowboys. I wonder if you think rodeo culture is welcoming to people from all backgrounds?
They are, but when I retired, I thought for sure there was only a handful of us then when we were out there. So a lot of times people didn't even have to say my last name. They would just say Abe. Everybody in the rodeo industry knew who Abe was. And I thought there'd be a lot more Black cowboys involved in like the PRCA, which is the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. But even now, I think there's less Black bull riders in the PRCA than there were when I retired. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a ton of black cowboys in Oklahoma and Texas, but not very many of them have stepped up to join the PRCA and be out there on the road and try to qualify for the Wrangler National Finals every year in December in Las Vegas.
Well, let's get into rodeo style here, because this might be something that would keep somebody away, thinking I don't have the cowboy boots. So let's say I'm rodeo curious, but I don't know what to wear. Do I need boots and a cowboy hat to fit in when I go watch rodeo for the first time?
Absolutely not. I see fans, and you can tell the fans that ran to the store, the day before, the week before, and bought their hats, because it doesn't matter to me. I'm always going to be a fan. I love it when I see people come to rodeos. I don't judge them by, what they're wearing or anything like that. I just like to see, I'd much rather go to a rodeo where there's, 60% of the people have never been before, and they have their store-bought hat, and their hat doesn't look the greatest in the world, rather than see empty bleachers. I love it because the crowd gets in the rodeo. I think once you go to a rodeo and you see a good bull riding event or something like that, you're going to keep going. You're going to become a fan for life, and that's what we all want. We want the sport to preserve and to continue.
Well, let me ask you this, because you, I'm sure, have attended a lot of rodeo events over the years. Is it more fun to start by attending a smaller rodeo, or should I start by going to one of the big ones like in Greeley or Cheyenne?
You can go to Greeley, you can go to Cheyenne. I'll say this, Cheyenne Frontier Days has always been my absolute favorite regular season rodeo. And when I was a kid, back in New Jersey, I'd watch ABC Wide World of Sports. I'd see Kurt Gowdy as the announcer. Being a little 10-year-old kid and watching that, in my wildest dream, I never thought I would be the rodeo announcer at a prestigious rodeo like Cheyenne Frontier Days. I look forward to going every year because I'm accepted.
Well, what about kids? What's your favorite part about taking kids to the rodeo or seeing kids at the rodeo?
I love that because you never know what kid is looking up to you. So always treat them good, always be professional. But I love it, the fact that there's kids coming along that are going to continue to carry the torch. There's not as many black kids in the PRCA, but one of my goals is to help them out and get some of these corporate sponsors like Wrangler and Roper and Cinch and some of these to help these out with financial assistance, because, I want the sport to grow, but I also want to see more black people get involved with it.
Abe Morris is author of the book, My Cowboy Hat Still Fits, My Life as a Rodeo Star. Abe, thank you so much for sharing these great tips.
Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
If you're looking for a rodeo to attend, we'll mention just a couple of the bigger ones. The Greeley Stampede goes through this weekend with concerts and bullfighting, and the Heritage of Mexico Rodeo on July 6th. And Cheyenne Frontier Days happens later this month, July 19th through the 28th. We'll include a list of more rodeos happening across Colorado in our show notes. That's it for us today on In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Have a happy and safe 4th of July.